to Joe Goes Everywhere, a Big Blend radio food, wine, and travel podcast featuring award-winning photographer and travel writer Joe Clark. Let's find out where she's taking us today. Welcome, everyone. You know, it is the second Sunday, and it must be 7 o'clock. But of course, you can listen to Joe Goes Everywhere anytime you want. We are exploring the treasures of South Carolina's coast today. We're going to go to 3 specific places: Huntington Beach State Park, which is also home to Atalaya Castle. And we'll see if I spelt that, or not spelt it, but pronounced it correctly. And we're going to go to Brookgreen Gardens, which I know Joe has talked about quite a bit. She loves Brookgreen Gardens. So it's going to be exciting to talk about flower power, some architecture, some parks, some beach, a little bit of everything there, right, Joe? And not far from your backyard. It is in your backyard.
It is in my backyard. It's about maybe 12 minutes.
Oh, nice, nice. So we're going to start off. So this is all in the Myrtle Beach area. So when people go to Myrtle Beach, this is what they can put on their list?
Yep, this is definitely on your to-do list when you're in Myrtle. It's on the way to Georgetown, and I've talked about Georgetown frequently. So this is actually in Georgetown County. You actually do cross that county line between Horry County and Georgetown County on your way, but it's gorgeous, and it's my favorite beach. When I would come down here long before I moved here, like 50 years ago, I would come down and go to Huntington Beach State Park, and I would take my chair and my cooler, and I would walk until I was pooped, and that's where I sat for the day then, because that got me as far away from people as possible. And you just sit out there, and it's like you have your own little private island. Once in a while somebody walks by, but you can pretend they're not there.
But so this is a nice beach area, but bird watching, nature, that kind of thing too?
Yes, everything. They have a nature center. You can go in and learn more about the animals and the birds of the area, the fish. They have fish tanks with the different species that are native. You can go in and pet a stingray.
Hey, and don't get stung. Is this the area? I remember on a show a few years ago, you talking about them taking care of a certain bird. I think it was a woodpecker bird, or was it there or Brookgreen? I think there was something to do with
Brookgreen has got forest replanted with the longleaf pine, and that is where I think it's the pileated woodpecker.
Okay.
That's the only tree they will nest in.
Okay. Well, that's cool. You know, to have them there. So that's something we'll go to Brookgreen in a bit here. But Huntington Beach, that's going to be kind of cool because now you've got all the coastal birds and all the seashore. Yeah. So you've got 2 different ecosystems, and these 2 places are not far from each other.
And really 3, because you've got swampland there too, marshy swamp, and then the coast, and then the woods.
Now in the marshy swamp, that's gator country, right? So it
is definitely gator country.
Yay, we like that.
Put some pictures of those in my folder too.
Okay, everyone, and that's a thing we should tell everyone, that you've got a great article showcasing everything up on nationalparktraveling.com. So you can go there, just type in Huntington Beach State Park or Brookgreen Gardens, you'll find it. Also, you'll see Joe in the expert section, and the link is in the episode notes to keep it easy. So check that out there. But yeah, Huntington is home to, did I say it? Atalaya.
I say Atalaya. It was Atalaya for 50 years, and now a lot of people say Atalaya.
Okay, Atalaya.
I don't know if they're putting on airs, but it is Spanish for watchtower.
Oh, okay.
And in the middle of the Atalaya is built in a square, and in the middle of the square is this great big tall water tower that's concealed with brickwork, and then it looks like a watchtower. And so that is where the word Atalaya came from. Archer Huntington, and we've talked a little about Archer before, but Archer Huntington was a scholar, and he came from family money, and I think most of their money came from the railroad and lumber industry and things like that, maybe even shipping, I'm not sure. That's sort of in the back of my mind that's right. But he was a scholar, and he was a Spanish scholar. He translated El Cid from the original Spanish into English. And so he wrote poetry, and he did a lot of translating
Mhm.
and was an educator as far as
Okay.
Spanish language. And so that's where his love of that language then is where I'm sure he came up with, let's call it Watchtower. But he designed Atalaya. So he was a wannabe architect, apparently, among his other trades.
Hey,
You know,
why not? Go for it.
his wife did all the sculpting, and
Hmm.
he did the design work for the castle. And then the castle has a big sculpting studio, an indoor studio, and then off the indoor studio, it's a big outdoor compound where she could work in nice weather.
Wow.
Cages and stables. And she's the one, I think I've told you before. I don't know if it was on a show, but Anna, she sculpted into her 90s. And her sister was also a sculptor. Their father was a doctor of or professor of zoology and something else, but having to do with animals, both of his fields. So they grew up with animals. They grew up sketching animals. And when she showed a big interest in sculpting, she went and kind of interned with a famous sculptor, and he fired her because she pointed out everything he had done wrong in one of his statues of a horse, because she was an equine expert. So she's like, no, the jaw of a horse is more like this. So she's telling him everything that's wrong. So she didn't last long with him. I thought that was hilarious. She would buy, when she did this statue of, I think it's the Don Quixote statue, not the plow horse, because plow horses are pretty sturdy. But Don Quixote, I think, is the one that is riding on a really skinny, poor horse, looks like it's going to drop dead any second.
Oh.
So she went out and bought these poor, broken down, starving horses to sculpt from and have a live model that looked the part, but they would get fat pretty quick because she was taking really good care of them. She'd have to go out and buy another skinny horse. And I can't remember how many she ended up having to buy before she finished her work.
Wow.
But I thought that was cool.
That is,
But she had bear cages.
But this was the thing, I think what's so interesting about all the stories of South Carolina that you've told us. It seems like there's these families come into this area and they're a lot of character, a lot of strength and resilience, and just very unique people that they're kind of eccentrics in a way.
Definitely.
Would you say rich eccentrics of the past?
And they came not just to buy cheap land and plantations. They bought 4 plantations. That's what makes up Brookgreen. It goes from the Waccamaw River all the way to the ocean. So you've got 4 plantations side by side that go from the river to the ocean. And now with Highway 17 cutting it in half, one side is Huntington Beach State Park, which is where Atalaya is, right on the ocean, their winter home. The other side is where Brookgreen was developed as a place where she could display her sculptures.
Okay.
And when they came, it was during the Depression. And instead of bringing in brick masons, which clearly he could have done, he had plenty of money, they could have brought in anybody they wanted to build their homes and do the work. Instead of doing that, they brought in a couple of masons and had them teach the locals how to make the bricks and lay the bricks, so that gave them not only jobs during the Depression, but then training for the rest of their life. And because they had to have electricity, the electricity was run from Georgetown up to this area, which was, I guess that's about 22 miles maybe. They didn't have electricity in that area, but he had to pay to have it brought to his house. So then everybody along the way could tap into it. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, you got to think how these things happen,
Yeah.
It's like I have friends who live out in a forest area in the Appalachia region, and they're in the forest, and you just wouldn't even know. You go down a tiny road, and then you go off a little road, and you wouldn't know. There's about 3 or 4 houses there, but they're all spread out, and you just, they're all
Little
just
compound.
Yeah, but everyone's like, leave me alone. We're neighbors, we're friends, but like it's not like suburbia whatsoever, right? And like I said, in the middle of Appalachia region. And there was some kind of something happening during COVID where you could get fiber, internet.
Fiber optic.
Fiber optics, and there
Yep.
was like a grant or something, and he knew
Yep.
his area needed it because the kids weren't going to do it. So he did something with this grant, and I don't know if he like matched something or did something, but he ended up with fiber internet. And so we love to visit because we love really good internet, but you're in nature. And so now all these people, especially now after the hurricanes and stuff, are able to get internet. So, but if he hadn't done that, they wouldn't have the internet they needed for kids to be able to.
Could go to school during that time when everything was online schooling.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's always a trade-off, isn't there? Yeah. So now you've got Brookgreen Gardens. So some of her art is there. Do you see some of her art at Huntington too? All over?
Huntington Beach doesn't have any sculptures.
Okay.
They have a giant Adirondack chair that you can sit in and have a picture made.
Why not? Why not? But they've got the castle.
I mean, well, now I take that back. I said none of her work. That's not true because at Atalaya, which is in the state park, she designed and made all the wrought iron grates for each window and the gates and things like that. So, and when they lived there, some of her work was displayed because she made the dining table and chairs and things like that out of the cat.
So she was like a Renaissance woman, being able to do a little bit of everything, huh? Did she paint?
I haven't seen anything that she painted, but they raised show dogs, deer hounds, and something else. And of course, they traveled back and forth. When they traveled back and forth from New York, they had a carload of dogs and monkey and some parrots because these were things that she had to sculpt from. And then, of course, what are you going to do with them after you finish sculpting them? Keep them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Because, who's going to buy them right there? Your next door neighbor. But so with these plantations, just to go back to our last conversation, you were talking about rice plantations. Yes. So are these all rice plantations? All three. The South Carolina gold, or is it Carolina gold?
Carolina gold.
Right.
Yep. All four were rice plantations in the day. Yeah.
So did you get to see some of that history?
You do. They have trekkers, almost like Humvee looking things, but they have some vehicles that go out in the woods, and you can take hour or 2 hour day tours. You can take a pontoon down the river and learn more about the rice history and how it was cared for, what it takes to grow rice. And the trekker takes you out. One of them, especially in the winter, I love going in the winter because you don't have to worry about the mosquitoes and not as many of the wild boars are out there.
We love the wild boars.
Not if they come running up at you.
We'll have that experience next for, probably.
Probably. But there's a cemetery there. And then there is also a slave cemetery that is actually, I think, still in use. The last time I went, I think there had been a grave opened about 2 years prior. Mm-hmm. So if you have that link that you have an ancestor buried there, that they own one of the 4 plantations, you can still be buried there. And then the planters and some of those are buried in a different cemetery. And then there's a rice mill. They look kind of like a lighthouse. When you see them, you think, oh, that's a lighthouse. What's it doing here? Because they're sort of small and cylindrical and very tall. It's where the rice was ground and the wind came through and blew out the chaff. And it's interesting to learn about that and see those. And there's a couple, I think there's one complete one still standing and then some that are in rubble.
Wow. So now Brookgreen Gardens, that is actually, so one of their plantations, but that is also a landmark, right? A historic landmark, National Historic Landmark?
Yeah.
Cool.
Because, that's been there since the 30s, and it was plantations. And this pond behind us is a raised pond. It's actually the cistern from the original house. And that's filled with water lilies and sculptures on the outer edge of it.
So what are the gardens like? I mean, because to me, looking at the photos, it just seems like you've got the Spanish moss, you got flowers. It's just Is it something you would do year round? I mean, you're saying you'd winter,
Yeah.
you'll see some
And I'll
flowers?
add some more pictures because they have Night of 1,000 Candles and they have 100,000 lights on one Christmas tree. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I don't think 10,000. 10,000 doesn't sound like enough because it's a huge tree. But they have about 3 nights a week that they're open between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And they have live music, they have performances, they have candles lining both sides of sidewalks that go out
Oh,
through
it's
the
magic.
gardens. It's just amazing. It's beautiful.
Man. Now, I know you went to Charleston in winter, this past winter, and they had camellias blooming. Now, are you getting the camellias where
The
you are too?
camellias are here too. There's camellias in the main garden, a few, but then across from what I call the main garden, where you go through and you'll have a map, and there's like the butterfly garden, not for butterflies, but it's in the shape of a butterfly. The
Cool.
walk, if you looked at it from above, it
Yeah.
would say, oh, that's a butterfly. But there's, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 different gardens. There's Diana's garden, different things like that. And across the road that you come in to go to the parking lot, there's a big pond, more gators and lots of turtles.
We like
But
that.
yeah, but in that pond, around that pond, then there are camellias planted, and they start blooming because they're different kinds. There's one kind that blooms it's like Christmas cactus and Thanksgiving cactus and Easter cactus. They all look like the same thing to people, but they bloom at different times because they're not the same. Camellias are the same way. And so we've got the ones that bloom in November. We have some that bloom from December to January, some that bloom from January to March.
Nice.
So it's like from Thanksgiving on up till Easter almost, you see
It's
these
camellias.
camellias.
Oh, I love that.
And
I love that.
they're all labeled. When I go with my friend Deb, we have, we're taking pictures of these beautiful blooms, and then she's down on the ground digging out the tag to see what's the name of this one.
Okay. Well, because she wants to grow it, or
She's got some in her
exactly.
backyard in Charleston.
So Brookgreen Gardens also ranks in like one of the top 10 gardens in the country.
It does for good reason. It's beautiful.
You've got
the gardens
art,
are beautiful
nature.
even without the sculpture.
Yeah. So you got gardens, you got nature because you got gators and all of that, and then you've got the art.
And then you have a zoo.
So they got animals too.
They have a very, very nice zoo, and you can walk through the zoo and see all these animals that are native to this area. So you're seeing the river otters, you're seeing the foxes.
Are they rescues, or do you think they're rescues?
Yeah, most all of them are. They've been injured and would not survive anywhere else. There's, of course, as you say, the gators are there. They have an aviary that you can walk through, and they've got all of the native birds from the area. And then we have some wild river otters that come into the park because, hey, it's a buffet.
Yeah.
They're in the park having lunch, and so then they have to be trapped and taken back to the river. It's like, no, we're not feeding you.
I see. They're like, hey, I see people getting fed over there. Other ones, I want to. So now, can you go? You can go on a. You say a creek excursion, which this sounds like, because I was thinking about people planning. So this would be something you would do for like a full day or two.
Yeah. And if you're not a member at Brookgreen, if you like buy a ticket to Brookgreen, I think the tickets now, they've gone up. They go up and up and up like everything else. At one time, I can remember them being $18 for a ticket. And people thought that was awful. They're more than that now, but they're good for a week. So you can go until you drop that day, and then go to the beach and lay in the sun and come back the next day, or come back the next afternoon. And they have 2 different or 3 different small cafes where you can get a bite to eat. And then they have one large restaurant with just a very wide menu, and get the sheet crab soup. Just don't ask questions. Just do it.
So what would you say would be a tip for someone coming there? They're going, hey, I'm going to go through, we love our road trips, so we're building our giant road trip map. So, and this
That's
is on the
true.
Palmetto Highway, right? Isn't it the Palmetto Highway at the 17?
Highway 17.
So that's part of our road trip that we've been talking about. And so with that, what would you say people should look at staying? So I know Myrtle Beach has like a gazillion resorts.
Yep. Yep.
There's
You
a
just
lot
Google
of kinds of
rooms in
everything.
Myrtle Beach. You'll
It's
be
gonna-
reading forever.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah.
There's some
places close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are. There's some inns. There's a couple of bed and breakfasts that have opened now, and it's closer to Myrtle Beach than to Georgetown,
Okay.
but it's not a big difference. The difference to me is if you stay in Georgetown, you don't have nearly as much traffic. So you come up, spend the day at Brookgreen and over at the park, go back to Georgetown and have dinner.
And they have the inn with the brewery, don't they?
They do. You could stay at Baxter's Bed and Brew.
So I love Georgetown. It's a beautiful little, it's like a village. Talking about villages,
It is.
It's
got
charming.
probably 100 houses left that are from the early 1700s.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool, man. This sounds like a good place. So do you go all the time to Brookgreen?
Yeah.
And Huntington.
If you live here, you go ahead and you're a member so that you just show
You
your
go when you
card
want.
as you drive by and you just go on in. And the same with the state park side. If you live here or if you're here a lot, you don't even, I had a park pass before I ever lived here because I did that math. If I'm here for a week or two and I'm in and out of the state park every day, that just paid for that park pass. And then every other time I come is free. So again, I get my park pass every year so that I can go. And it's not just for that one park. Now, if I go up to Greenville for a weekend and I want to go to a couple of the state parks, park pass. It's
so you got a state park
every
pass.
South Carolina state park.
That's awesome. That's
and
awesome.
then I've got the one for the national parks too.
Yeah.
As soon as we were old enough to get those and get the senior park pass, I got a senior park pass when they were $20.
Yeah. I think that's the park passes. I mean, because that gets you into the forest areas, it gets you into wildlife refuges, and also speaking of park passes, military is completely free. You can get a park pass just if you're a veteran, and that means your whole family in the car with you, gets to get in too.
That's very true.
That's good. And fourth graders too. So there's all kinds of programs. So it's always worth looking at. But if you're going to South Carolina a lot, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yep.
And it helps fund these places. If you can give a little bit more, that's always a nice way of supporting these parks because they need it, and the gardens. And gardens need to be taken care of for sure. So I really want to go.
They have volunteers, they have docents that will take you on a tour of the garden and talk about what's in bloom and show you different plants that you might not be aware of. They have docents that take you through the zoo and talk about the animals. And if you're there at the right time, you can go through with the people with the buckets of food. So then you're guaranteed to see the animals because that rattle that bucket and they all come running.
Yeah. And do that with the gators. They'll come running too, but you're not supposed to feed the gators. Don't feed the gators. Do not do that. Don't be one of those
people. Don't
feed
the gators and don't feed the seagulls on the bench.
Can you have a glass of wine in the gardens? I think I might, have glass will travel.
Yes, they actually do some wine events. They have nighttime concerts in the summer, cool summer evenings, and we go and they sell the wine themselves. So they sell wine and sangria and different things and beer for those.
I had to go there for
lovers.
you though. I had to go there for you.
I'm glad you did.
Well, now we got to tell everyone you're going to be traveling again. So next month we're going to be talking a little bit more about pretty much like Pennsylvania region. And you're doing Pennsylvania.
Headed to York and Gettysburg and Cumberland Valley.
Nice. I'm looking forward to hearing about your adventures. It'll be fun.
I got to squeak in a Florida trip too.
Oh,
I keep saying that, but it's got to happen. It's going to happen in July.
And then you got to still go to Willamette Valley, Oregon.
Yep.
That's happening. So lots of good things coming. Well, it sounds like you're going to do a cool road trip in Pennsylvania. That's like a nice road trip. That's epic. Awesome. You're going to have fun. Always fun. What's your wine of the day to go with the gardens?
My wine is a nice white wine. Is one of those that I didn't learn how to say the names. It's an Italian white, and it has this cute glass.
It's like a glass cork.
Yeah, like a little glass stopper.
Cool.
So when, that's handy for traveling. I'm going to put that little stopper in my luggage so that I can stop her. Because, if you pound a cork back into a bottle, you can't get it back out. This little jewel will stopper my bottles when I'm.
That's a really good
And
little.
it does.
Wow. Who knew?
I know.
It's a bonus. Well, safe and happy travels. We look forward to next month. Everyone, again, the article's linked up in the episode notes, as well as Joe's websites, recipiestravelculture.com and haveglasswilltravel.com. And that's what she's going to be doing, of course. So Joe goes everywhere, Cheers to you.
Cheers, everybody. See you next month.
Thanks for joining us. Keep up with Big Blend Radio's Joe Goes Everywhere podcast on bigblendradio.com. Keep up with Joe's adventures. Go to haveglasswilltravel.com and recipiestravelculture.com.